Thank you guys for joining us here today. There's a lot of people. So we are the PsyColor therapy team, and today we have Ajin Lee, Tanu, and myself, and we are part of the John Ikia Neurolab. Okay, so what is color psychology? So this is a study of how colors affect mood and behavior in humans, and we're gonna dis explore how these colors influence emotional response. And with this emotional response, we're trying to see how our response to these colors differentiate based on our demographics, such as age, cultural background, socioeconomic status, level of age, education, gender, and how that ties to personality in our study. But color can also help influence human perceptions that are not obvious. So we're gonna also discover like our true perspective and how these different factors help influence our day-to-day lives.
For our literature review, we have first our Wheel of Emotions. So to the right, you can see Robert Plutchik's Wheel of Emotions. And with our study, we found links between personality traits and color preferences, which are influenced by demographic factors, so like socioeconomic status and ethnicity.
Really hard to read the letters on the blue,
On the,
on
so,
the dark blue and the medium blue.
yeah, on the blue, it says grief, sadness, and pensiveness.
Okay.
So another aspect of our literature review was the marketing and branding. In terms of marketing applications, there are specific colors that help companies stand out from its competitors and create a unique brand personality. And overall, the goal of any company is to find a logo or a specific color that's going to help it positively affect the consumer perception. Additionally, they are incorporating appropriate and analogous colors when choosing colors to create brand personality, which overall helps with the appeal. There is a theory known as the isolation effect, in which unique elements and colors help certain products become more memorable in comparison to other ones. And additionally, there is dimensions of brand personality, in which most common colors chosen by a company impact the consumer psychological interpretation of the product. For example, the color blue is known to be more sincere and trusting, and so a company like LinkedIn may use the color blue to show that it's trustworthy, it's reliable, and something that consumers can be using for any purpose. On the other hand, red is most commonly used by fast food restaurants like McDonald's because, first of all, it increases arousal and it is also exciting for the consumers. As you can see over here is a wheel that encompasses the color psychology and branding aspect. There are different colors that demonstrate a variety of feelings and just help consumers look for brands that have certain emotions attached to it.
Okay, so some clinical applications is how we use light therapy or with color light therapy to help make diagnosis. So commonly in the ER, if you're in there for like a stroke or like a panic attack, a doctor will commonly shine a light in your eyes, and this helps like relax the eye nerves and ultimately the body as well through a series of chain reactions. As you guys may have known, red light therapy has been trending in social media lately, but not only does it help with like wrinkles and stuff, it also helps with other skin infections or diseases such as erysipelas, urticaria, scarlet fever, measles, and eczema, or after an operation like the incisions or the acute inflammation and other ultraviolet burns because red light helps like contrast these burns that or infections that have happened. Yellow light is also commonly used to like help raise low blood pressure, and blue light is often used to help with headaches, high blood pressure, or insomnia. So you have like the classic like blue light glasses that people use. We can also help make diagnosis with color without any invasive like kind of treatments. So a Caucasian man could appear more white from fright or loss of blood, gray from pain, red from anger, yellow from jaundice, green from poison, or blue from poor blood circulation. That kind of helps medical professionals or just like even us on the day-to-day to make these like conclusions about people in emergency situations.
Okay, as for our progress, we have personality tests and color. So we conducted a preliminary investigation of the relationship between personality and color. So we had our participants take personality assessments and we aligned their test results with colors from Plutchik's Wheel of Emotions or based on colors in the assessment. And we determined whether this color aligns with the individual's like color preferences.
Additionally, we were able to come up with our own test known as the color values test, utilizing the color pyramid that you see on the right. Our test asks for several demographics, including age, race, financial status, occupation, and education. Additionally, our other two tests, known as NEO-FFI and True Colors test, utilize the Likert scale ranking and have a baseline comparison for participants' personality. The data is stored in a HIPAA compliance job form. And basically, what the color values test does is that it's categorized by three titles, you would say: personal perception, anticipated perception of oneself, and true perception. There is diversity in color characteristics to match with all sorts of perceptions, and the color wheel colors correspond to personality traits, and so we're able to tally a score using those correlations.
Okay, so our current work, as mentioned on the previous slide, we've designed a color pyramid for the participants to like self-match their own preferred color. And we made sure to like utilize all these different kinds of shades and hues of the RGB for a variety. And the main like concept that we're working here is how dynamic our life is. So we also introduced like personality tests as part of our like survey to look into our dynamic lives. So we have our professional and personal lives. So to what extent does our profession affect who we become and our personality? And these personality tests, such as the NEO-FFI or the True Colors or our own color values test, helps like break down our preferred color, and we can see it from like different life aspects, but it still has like the color connection to associate it with these traits. So I would ask you guys today to like consider why you think the professional color palette is only like usually limited to neutral colors, instead of like these vibrant colors such as pink or orange. Once again, in our daily lives, we can show how we are very dynamic people with different like sides that we show to our friends and family or in our professional workplace. So we're able to see the different percentages of our main preferred color and see how in the different parts of our lives, as mentioned before, in our perceived perception of ourselves, what we expect others to see and what our true kind of self is. And then we can use that to determine what kind of person and how much these demographics affect us. And this could also be seen based on how often we tend to use our perceived preferred color.
Yeah, spread very thinly across the group.
For our current analysis, we decided to categorize our participants by profession. So we have our first two categories are people in engineering and tech, so like engineers or like ITs, and people in education and research, so like teachers or like professors or researchers work too. So for engineering and tech, we found that the those people's favorite colors correlated closely with our true colors results. So their favorite colors were yellow, orange, and crimson. A lot of them preferred warmer shades. And the most common true colors result was gold, which is a color that's closely related to traits like responsibility, being organized, and being a good rule follower. And stereotypically, a lot of engineers are often associated with traits like organized and rule following. And we also found that their NEO-FFI scores and color values both indicated good team working ability. So they had high openness to experience and agreeableness. And their color values results um, describe them as trust, with trustful, powerful, and very like good sense of security. And as for people in education and research, their favorite colors correlated closely with their neo-FFI and color values results. So their favorite colors were navy, ocean blue, and sky blue. So unlike people in engineering and technology, they preferred cooler shades. Their neo-FFI scores can indicated high conscientiousness and openness, and those are often correlated with the color blue. We also found that the true colors results often seen or desired in these educators, and the most common results were gold and green. Gold is closely correlated with traits like responsibility, organization, and being a good rule follower, and color green is logical, efficient, and focused.
Another section that we discovered is like the home and family and the business and management. So in terms of home and family, we're thinking like the homemakers, housewives, stuff like that. And we found that demographics closely correlated with the color values. So given that the participants in this category were predominantly female, and majority of our participants self-reported their favorite color as pink. And because the stereotype with this gender and this like occupation is how they're usually like reliable, responsible, and organized. In this, we found a direct correlation between the results with the true colors and color values tests, producing like a pink color or like a warm hue in these personality tests as well. In the new FF5, we were able to see that majority of these participants showed an average to low neuroticism. Neuroticism is like the tendency to experience like negative emotions or how easily you're affected by these kind of external negativities in your life. Because they had average to low neuroticism, we were able to see that they had low tendencies to experience these negative emotions, and which suggests like how these group of people in this like occupation are usually like grounded and connects back to how they're responsible and organized in the other personality test categories as well. In the business and management category, you have people such as like the CEOs or real estate agents. And within our color values assessment, new FFI and true colors and their own self-reported color, we were able to see how these people professionally preferred and showed blue traits in their color that they chose and in their personality test. And these traits usually signify like respect, trust, purpose, strength, and courage, which stereotypically again is needed in like the business field because you need to be confident in your like product that you're trying to sell to other people. Um, but sometimes we also like found in the true colors test and the color values, many people showed in their like true version of their self that colors like yellows and gold also was a prominent color, and this kind of suggests like once again for their like true self that they don't necessarily publicly acknowledge. That they want or like try to have a lot of optimism in their life, which correlates with the yellow and gold hues because that's not really as prominent in their professional lives. And this shows like the contrast between one's professional and personal lives coming together in the different types of colors that they chose.
Our next occupation was the healthcare field, and the conclusion that we came to was that demographics correlated closely with childhood favorite color, the true colors test, and the color values test. So people who work in the healthcare field are commonly associated with traits like softness, calmness, optimism, responsibleness, and organized, because those are traits that you would need to encounter any patient or just in the field itself. So the true colors test, gold, and the color values test, yellow, have similar looks and shades, which again relates back to the participants' favorite colors. Um, Ashin, if you could go back one slide. Okay, thank you. And therefore, we can make the assumption that healthcare workers tend to be more sociable, organized, which again are a big part of their personality as well. And that's how we were able to get the NEO FFI test results, which gave us that common personality. In terms of the creative and media field, we saw that demographics correlated closely with childhood favorite color and the color values test, not necessarily the true colors test or the new FFI test. Females preferred some shade of pink, which too is a bright color like yellow, which is the result that we got from the color values test. And people who work in media are often associated with traits like optimism, energetic, and being active. And so the conclusion that we made is that bright colors indicate passionate and active. But again, we did have some opposition since the true colors test results showed calmness and tranquility. Our last occupation was a student. So the conclusion that we came over here is that the demographics correlated closely with the new FFI test, which was our personality test. All participants had medium to high openness, agreeableness, extroversion, which again relates back to optimism and the sociable traits that we have assumed to be correlated with the color yellow. Students are typically optimistic, energetic, and active as they're still going through new experiences. And so that's why the color values test, which gave us the result of yellow, is in the same family as the true colors test, which gave us the result of gold. And so again, we're able to assume that bright colors indicate passion and activeness, but again, there was some opposition since the true colors test results showed order, and which are useful traits for being a student.
So our future work, we plan on continuing our data collection and outreach to over about 100 participants. And in order to quantitatively analyze our data, we're going to use the ANOVA and Pearson correlation coefficient to help us draw these conclusions. So once again, to reiterate, we're discovering or like trying to navigate the impact of culture, gender, age, profession, as well as personality traits and personal values and how that influences our preferred color and what that preferred color says about these different dynamic aspects of our life. So just to give you a brief overview, ANOVA is a statistical test used to compare the difference between the means of two or more groups. And once again, because an individual and their life is dynamic, there are different percentages associated with how much an individual likes a certain color, depending on different contexts. So, in like the professional context, they might like the color blue only about like 10%, but in their personal life, it might be a greater percentage. And because we're testing with multivariables, we're gonna use MANOVA, which is the multivariate version of ANOVA. And for example, we're just gonna go through, we're gonna test variables such as the age group and the percentage of liking blue. And we're going to test that with each demographic factor that we asked our participants in our assessment. And a big thing that we're trying to address here is are we trying to see that if there is a statistically significant difference in color preferences between these different demographic factors and how that ultimately affects and our perceptions in our professional and personal lives. And we're also using the Pearson correlation coefficient, which is used to measure the strength and the how linear the relationship between the demographic variables and favorite color is as long as with the personality test. And then with this, we're going to draft our manuscript.
We are currently in need of more participants. So if you are between ages of 18 or 65 with no prior um, history of chronic illnesses or diagnoses or hospitalizations from psychological disorders, or if you're not currently pregnant, it would be really much appreciated if you could fill out our survey.
You go to the previous slide, sorry.
We would like to thank our advisor, Ms. Sahar Jahanikia, for her invaluable support during this project. We would also like to thank ASDRP for making this work possible, and we could not have done it without you guys. Here is a list of our references for your curiosity.